His name is Charlie Love, he goes for walks. His name is Charlie Love, wrote down the blocks. His name is Charlie Love, he hates guitars. His name is Charlie Love, he hates guitars. Jesus, Charlie.
You're listening to Jesus Charlie. Welcome. It's been a while since I've recorded. This is actually the first time all week, and that's not necessarily a good thing because now I feel a little bit of pressure to get this episode out. I honestly haven't recorded because I haven't felt like I had anything to say. No like updates. I mean, I've done some stuff this week, but I've also done a few things that made me feel like I'd already mentioned it elsewhere, stuff like that. Had that Territories session on Tuesday when I hung out with Lindsay, and we talked for a long time, got a few good episodes of Territories out of that yet to be released. I guess I should go ahead and set the scene. It's like 11:35, it's Saturday morning, it's February 28th. Is today the last day? I think today's the last day of February, if Gregorian calendar rules apply, and I do believe they do. And so right now I'm actually heading to the grocery store to get my old weekly shopping in. But yeah, I haven't really felt like I've had much to say. Definitely nothing of interest, nothing I wanted to hear myself repeat. I've been listening to a lot more podcasts than I've been thinking about making them, I guess. I mean, I still have been heavily involved in Week in Review and Territories and stuff, but Jesus Charlie has kind of suffered. Went for a walk the other day with Charlie and had every intention of recording, but again, had nothing really to say. And as you might even be able to tell now, I hardly have anything to say now. But in the interest of stick-to-itiveness and wanting to, I guess, stay consistent and, not fall behind, which is like 4 different ways of saying the same thing, I thought it'd be good to go ahead and just get this little 5-minute clip that I know I could do because it's on the way to the store and I've done it so many times. And I guess just kind of see what came out. That was my only sort of idea about where a clip might go if I did try to record one earlier this week, was that I would just have to kind of let stuff out and just see what came. And so here we are doing that. I had written some stuff down, and again, I feel like I've just said it elsewhere and just kind of gotten that sentiment out. So I didn't really want to repeat any of that. Today, it's a nice day. It's good weather, which is nice because earlier this week we had like we had the threat of an ice storm, and we usually get about one of those a year where everything is just completely covered in ice and the city kind of shuts down and everyone kind of freaks out. And in my experience, that's really only been an issue for motorists because on the bicycle, especially if you have like a mountain bike or something that's better equipped, you don't really get hampered or anything by adverse conditions like that, because there's always, the sidewalk, or there's always usually some alternative path that may not be available to the motorists that you can get into on your bike. So that was last week. That was the day that Lindsay and I made pho, which was a lot of fun. Last night was Friday. Usually Eric and I don't do too much. At the very least, I'll go to the store if I need to get the groceries for the week and just kind of relax, maybe go for a walk with Charlie or go for a bike ride if I have some sort of an errand. But my friend Ben's band was playing. They are called Coco Beware. I feel like I only remember that name because I was trying to remember it so hard yesterday, so many times, and couldn't do it, and then finally did kind of capture it later in the night, and then had, I guess, my night's sleep committed to memory during the memory processing stages of sleep. And that was fun. Erica and I biked over there, definitely sort of unexpectedly. I didn't really anticipate that we would be doing that together, but it was nice. It was cool that she geared up and accepted the cold and I wouldn't say arduous, but it's been a long time since she's been on the bike, so it was sort of a hilly ride, but around Atlanta it's kind of hard to escape. It's hard to get anywhere unless you're willing to accept that you're going to have to go up some hills. So that was a lot of fun. Saw all my friends. I think almost literally, with the exception of Jake and I guess Sarah, a few other people. It was the majority of my actual friend group was there. Of this specific friend group, because there are other people who I'm friends with that wouldn't have been there under normal circumstances, and they weren't there either last night. But that was a lot of fun. Today, I've been having some issues with my bike, my main bike, my Scatante all-carbon fiber road bike. I had 2 flats last week, which again, that's something I guess I could have talked about on the Jesus Charlie show earlier this week, but I mean, how much can you say? And so the first flat I had actually gotten on the way to work, and I had to ride like half of my commute with a completely flat back tire, which I hate to do because it's awful for the rim. It's just a bad practice in general. It's just not good to do. That's bad for the spokes, bad for the everything. But I was on my way to work, and so I didn't really want to be late just because I had a flat tire. So I've done this before. I'm pretty well, unfortunately, versed in how to properly bike, quote unquote, with a completely flat tire. Basically, I just stand up the entire time and shift all my weight forward so that there's as little weight as possible on that back wheel. And managed to get to work. Didn't end up taking my break as I usually do and going back home and taking out Charlie because I wanted to fix the flat so that I obviously couldn't even bike back if I wanted to, although I guess I could have, but that would have been 12 miles on a flat tire, and that's something that you should avoid if at all possible. So I spent my whole lunch break listening to Jay-Z, which might be a theme of this show for the Song of the Week segment later. I've been listening to him for the first time, really. I'm going through his discography, but listened to him and did a very thorough investigation of why my tire might have popped, because there's nothing worse than going through all the motions of repairing a flat and getting everything put back together, and then ultimately you get another flat shortly thereafter because you didn't remove the object that was tearing your tube, or some other, it could be coincidental, but usually what it is just that you didn't get what you needed to get out of your tire or wheel or whatever. And so I thought I had found the problem. I thought that it was this little burr, this little area of my rim where I think I might have hit a curb just slightly taking a turn. And so maybe there was a little sharp piece of metal sticking somewhat into the tube itself. And then that got punctured, probably from me maybe jumping off of curbs, the pinch flats that can occur when you have a bunch of compression because you jumped off a curb, and then you have all of that weight coming down on the wheels, and so there's a little bit more compression than usual. I need to still investigate the wheel as it stands right now. I've been sort of leaving that to today, Saturday, to look into further, because I do enjoy that. I'll get a good podcast and make a cup of tea. I have a whole sort of regimen where, is it regiment? I think it is regiment. I think regimen is just a weird way of saying regime, which is it's not the right word. But anyway, I have it's very meditative, I have to say. It's it's that flow state. It's that Zen type nothingness where, I spend easily an hour just exploring the entire surface of where the tube and the tire meet the rim. And, I exhaustively go visually and manually with my hands. I'll just go over it, looking for anything that's suspicious, feeling with my hands for any sharp edges or corners, or if there's any obvious objects in the actual tire. And I like to wear white, latex gloves, because obviously I don't want to get my hands all dirty, but also there's an added bonus because they're somewhat fragile. And when I had my last flat, I was going through I had gone through my whole tire and everything, and hadn't found anything visually, so I went through with my fingers and just kind of, put my finger around the whole circumference of the tire, and there was a small piece of metal that I hadn't visually seen, but that was sticking into my tire. It was like almost the size of a staple, very, very small, straight piece of metal. And it got caught on my glove and ripped the glove, and I was like, wow, well, that's exactly what's causing this issue. I don't think I would have found it without the help of these gloves. So that was awesome. Sort of a double use there for those gloves. And so I'm at the store now. I've actually kind of extended this clip beyond its usual time, which is okay. I don't mind that. Again, trying to get this Jesus Charlie out there without resorting to like phoning it in or anything. And so today I'm gonna go for a nice bike ride. I'm having to ride on my fixed gear bike. I have a choice between. I've got 3 bikes. I have a fixed gear, I have a mountain bike, and then I have my Scatante, the road bike carbon fiber that's currently sick. And so I'll probably take the fixed gear and go over to Performance Bike today, Performance Bikes, and use the rest of a gift card that I got from my parents for Christmas and buy brand new tires. And I'm really excited about these because these are really, really good tires. These are Continental gator skin tires, which are basically like the best kind that you can get, in my opinion, and in my experience anyway. They're a little pricey. They're like $65 a piece, which is definitely a lot of money to spend on tires, but I used to be really into cars for about, I don't know if it's an exaggeration to say 3 or 4 months, but it felt like that. And I was really interested in cars, and I think I've said this before, but because Erica's car wasn't working well, and she was very worried that it was going to explode because it was having this really rough idle. And before this time, I had never even done as much as changing the spark plugs or replacing the windshield wipers. So I felt pretty inept when it came to trying to diagnose, let alone fix, a problem with the car. But when Erica's car got, its issue, it was a situation where necessity was the mother of invention, so to speak, and I did all this research and got into watching all these videos and so on and so forth. It ended up fixing the problem eventually, but I was watching all these videos on YouTube, and there was this one guy I watched a lot. His name was Eric the Car Guy, and that's his channel and everything on YouTube, and awesome tutorial videos. I mean, it was crazy because I would watch him, like I would watch a 2-hour plus video that was him replacing certain systems of the car. I just kind of learning how the whole thing works in conjunction with the other parts of the car by sort of seeing how everything works in isolation first and then putting it together in your head. Because with Erica's car, it seemed like there was a problem with the intake manifold. Didn't end up being the case. It was just spark plug wires that were very old and sort of degraded that needed to be replaced, but it took me a while to figure that out. But anyway, Eric the Car Guy said that the most important thing that you, not the non-essentials, but of all the things that you buy sort of on a regular basis, of all the things that are planned to sort of degrade over time, like brakes and maybe shocks or, the things that have to be replaced in the car just for standard upkeep, the tires are probably the most important. And it was really interesting hearing him say that because it seemed like a direct analog to biking. But he told this story about how his dad, I think, had bought cheap tires, and I think they lived in some Midwestern state or somewhere where it was snowy and iced a lot on the roads, and his dad didn't buy the appropriate tires for the situation, and this went with whatever was cheapest, and ended up basically almost killing the family and totaling the car because the tires that he'd gotten were so crappy and so inappropriate for the situation. So after watching that, I felt really good about my decision up to that point to basically usually get the best tires that I could reasonably afford. And so today I'm going to go up to Performance and get some new tires And that's not even the full brunt of what I'll have to do, because I'll have to also investigate to make sure that when I put the new tires on the bike, that the issue that's causing my flats now is resolved. Because the tires I have now are specialized Roubaix tires that I thought would be really good because they were a little bit more expensive than the Continental Gator Skins. And I got them, and I was pretty excited because I had never tried them, and so it was sort of on a whim, but also because I was at a bike store that I don't usually shop at, and I think it was more of a necessity at that point. So I bought them, and I remember I went for a bike ride with Crush and Angel, and we did some tour of this area over, like in the Morningside Park area, actually kind of close to where I'll be today. It was just part of the Beltline that I hadn't seen before, and had these brand new tires, which brand new tires I would think are going to be at the height of their durability and their strength in terms of like not popping and performing well. And I think you probably have to break a tire in, like, so that you can, like, you know, have greater flexibility when you're going into turns and stuff like that, so the rubber is a little bit less firm and everything. But I think for some reason, these tires that I just bought that were like $70 a piece, I got a flat in one, and I was hugely disappointed, and I was definitely taken aback and shocked and not satisfied with that purchase. And so I've been very skeptical of these tires the whole time that I've had them. I just felt like they were shitty tires that were only priced at such a high level because of the brand name that was putting them out. And so I've been very skeptical, and even looking at the treads of the tires at this point, after probably, I would say they have to have 2,000 miles on them. I mean, if they don't have 2,000 miles on them by now, I would honestly be surprised, because I'm biking 150 miles a week on average. The Scatante is my sole bike, and I got those tires before Erica and I moved to our current loft, which was back in September. It's now February. 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. So yeah, I would think there might even be more than 2,000 miles on them then. And so maybe this is just, you know, natural part of the life cycle of those tires, because otherwise they have been good, aside from maybe 3 or 4 total flats. But honestly, when I had the Gator Skins, I was able to get, I don't think I ever had a flat on the Gator Skins, which could be, you know, I mean, that's anecdotal evidence and purely possibly coincidental, but still, it's an experience that I can't discount when I think about the next set of tires I'm going to buy, which will be today. And it's a beautiful day. It's slightly overcast. Well, not overcast, but it's partly cloudy, I guess you would say, or partly sunny. Half glass, half empty or half full. Your decision. And it's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to today, and I think it'll be a nice way to spend my Saturday. I did all my chores and stuff this morning, you know, doing dishes and starting the laundry, cleaning a little bit. Charlie and Erica are back at home. Tomorrow, Sunday, there is a open house at the place where I work. They're moving locations, and we're going to have an open house available to all employees and their families. And so I'm going to be spending some time with my parents tomorrow and my uncles. We're going to all go there together, I guess, around 4, and I definitely want to get a bike ride in before that point. So I'm going to try to go for another bike ride tomorrow, weather allowing. And maybe I'll even be able to record a little bit of some of that. Maybe a conversation with my uncles, or something with my parents, or all the above. Who knows? Maybe we could do like a bit of a sound tour of the actual building where I'll be working. Although my experiences with that in the past have been kind of bad, because it's a little bit too amorphous in the visual, or in an auditory kind of way. It just sounds like a bunch of noise, a cacophony, and it's not very stimulating. It's just kind of like white noise at that point with no real context. So I may or may not do that. And I guess for now, I'll go ahead and step out. I'm gonna probably listen to some Comedy Bang Bang. Let's see what we got going on over here. been trying to download as many episodes as possible when I have strong internet connection so that I never run dry. Let us see. Lindsay just recently started listening to Analyze Fish. That's awesome. It's a good show. You guys should check that one out. Cool. Text from Lindsay. The podcast empire has gotten 18 new followers just in the past day. Pretty cool. That is pretty cool. That's what I'm texting. That is pretty cool. Also, small little announcement that I'm not really apt to announce, but Jake has a new podcast, I think called Beer and Pretzels or Pretzels and Beer or something, and I haven't heard it yet. I tried to download it this morning, but my phone isn't the best with downloading stuff from the internet, but I'm really excited about listening to that. It's a 20-minute kind of thing. I have no idea what it's going to be like, or if it's even going to be serialized, or if this is like a one-off, but I'm excited about that. I talked to, just to go back to yesterday real quick, talked to a friend of mine named Andrew Roos last night from high school, and he's pretty, I would say he's probably, he strikes me as someone who is like on the verge of success, and it seems like most homegrown success stories where you kind of make your own fortune and everything like that, you have like this period of struggle and everything where things are going really bad before they get really good, just because I guess you kind of have to go through the politics and the I don't know, you have to ascend the ladder before you're able to get to the top. And talking to him last night at this show the Ben's band was playing, it was really cool because he's working with Adult Swim trying to get a show out, and he was just telling me about his whole process up to this point, and it was really cool because we were talking about podcasting as well, because he was kind of asking me what I'm into these days, and he knows about Weekend Review and stuff like that, but it was cool to talk to him because, again, I'm struggling with like trying to create a comprehensible, compelling narrative that's consistent and self-referential and that has callbacks within it. Basically just trying to create a world, I guess, to have my main inspiration is definitely Comedy Bang Bang, and I'd say my main role model for how a good show should be put together is the way Scott Aukerman does that, and how he's able to weave all those threads and everything, and it's a hugely great influence to have. I'm not sure if Weekend Review would ever be up to par with that show, but it was cool talking with Andrew because he's dealing with the same kind of thing, where you try to create this narrative and this story that makes sense but is original, and I guess in a sense you want it to be addictive, and just to give your audience, you know, what you want them to get out of it. And I'm not sure if he'll ever be on Weekend Review or not, but I don't know. Maybe I could have like an interview with him on Jesus Charlie, because that would be great. He'd be a cool guy to sit down with and talk about structure and method and things like that. A very cool guy. He's got very big things coming, it seems like. I get that feeling when I talk to him that like it'll be interesting to think back. Like basically that he'll be famous one day, and it'll be interesting to think back to the time when we were at a small Atlanta music venue talking to each other, and how it was interesting that he didn't have like 1,000 people surrounding him asking him questions and stuff like that. But, you know, time will tell. That's just women's intuition, I guess, getting the better of me. So I'll go in now. Thanks again for listening. I don't know exactly what form the rest of the show is going to take. I have a bunch of writings and stuff like that from like 2012 and 2013, and I had collected all of those because I didn't know what I was going to do for this week's show, and I thought, well, at the very least I could just read these and just kind of have some content out there that I don't know, if I didn't feel like I had anything to say, which I've sort of proven myself wrong at this point with this clip. If I didn't feel like I had anything to say, at the very least I'd have stuff that I could read that is technically from my mind, but isn't is definitely not current, and it's not freeform. But I don't know if I'll do that, because this is already approaching 25-minute mark, so it may not even be necessary. But I definitely intend on doing a new installment of Song of the Week. I haven't quite decided on what song it'll be yet, but I definitely have a few ideas of what it will probably be. And the thing with me is I'm not sure if Song of the Week entails like a song that I necessarily have to have been listening to this week, which was my original conception for it, or if it's just a song that I'm highlighting for the week and doesn't necessarily have to be my favorite song. So, I think I could probably choose either one and no one will know the difference. It doesn't really matter, but I guess for my own consistency and how I perceive that little segment, just trying to, work out the bumps and stuff. So for now, Jesus Charlie, it's 12 exactly, and I'm heading into the store, and I'm going to listen to some funniness, and I'm going to enjoy. Talk to you later. Welcome back to Jesus Charlie. I think it's come to the time in the show where we're ready to go to
Song of the week. Song of the week. Song of the week. Song of the week.
Song of the Week. That's right, Song of the Week. So, this week, I decided to go with a song that I've been listening to and getting stuck in my head a lot, which is a Jay-Z song. And I'm not too familiar with Jay-Z, at least wasn't until this week. But I was talking to my, previous coworker. I think it's a stretch to call him a friend because we never really hung out before, but a guy who I really respect a lot, and who was featured on a previous episode of Jesus Charlie. That's Scoop Bop, Darian Jones. I was talking with him back and forth on email and stuff like that, asking him what some of his major influences were, because I really like his style and his vocals, his lyrical choice and everything. And he said that, his mom used to listen to a lot of Tupac, and I've tried to listen to Tupac before, and I just couldn't really get into it. I didn't listen to much, and I probably will have to give that another fair chance in the future. But he also mentioned Jay-Z, and so I decided to give that a shot. I decided to give Jay-Z a shot. And so when I pick, a new artist to kind of explore, one that I haven't listened to before, I really like to do a specific sort of, I wouldn't call it a vetting process, but I like to go about listening to them in a specific way. I'll always go on to allmusic.com, which is like my favorite go-to music website. I've been using it for years and years. I remember back in high school when MP3 players first started coming out, and how you could rip CDs, so you get the tracks off them, but most of the time the tracks wouldn't have names unless you had internet connectivity and had the ability to sync your music library with the internet's database, so that when you downloaded stuff from a CD or ripped it, you would be able to get the song names immediately. And so with allmusic.com, I used to go and I would, oh man, this was such a process. I just remember this is actually the only class in high school I ever failed. I got an F in some computer science class, and it was because I was definitely not paying attention, and I would spend most of my days going on AllMusic and finding track listings for albums that I had that only had the song names, or like the track titles, or track numbers as their title, rather. So it'd be like, track 1, track 2, track 3, etc. And so I would go to computer science, and this definitely is an indication of how long ago this was, and I would have a floppy disk with me. And these computers still had floppy disks, and so I would make Word documents, copying and pasting the track titles onto these Word documents, and then saving them to the floppy disk, and then taking that home with me later and improving my library. And so I've always had an intimate relationship with allmusic.com. And so what I like to do when I find a new artist that I want to listen to is to find their first album, or maybe the album that AllMusic gives the most stars to. And so with Jay-Z, someone who's got as big of a reputation as he does, I have a little bit more confidence. Like, I don't feel like I need to listen to whatever AllMusic deems the best Jay-Z album. I feel like I can just start from the beginning. And so this week's Song of the Week is going to be from his first album, which is called Reasonable Doubt, and came out in 1996. And there's a bunch of really amazing songs on this album. He's a really good lyricist, and he's got this cool sort of like combination of being a businessman but also being a very observant sort of social commenter, I guess. And I enjoy that because this first album, one must assume that he wasn't too successful or famous or wealthy before this album came out. So this was like his first real expression of him as an artist, I guess. And that's another reason why I actually like to listen to albums sort of chronologically when I find a new artist, because I feel like when you first kind of make it as a breakout artist or whatever you may be, and your first record that you put out on like a major label, it's going to have like a lot more realness and earnestness to it, I think, because you're still you probably wrote most of those songs while you were struggling, and I feel like it's a lot more representative of who you are as a person and like what sort of inspired you to pursue your art, whatever it may be. And I think this kind of bears out in definitely a lot of rappers. You can see a stark change in most rappers, like good rap, what I would call good rap, like Outkast. There's a huge difference between Southern Playalistic Cadillac Funky Music. Is that the name of the album? You know what I'm talking about. That album, ATLiens and Equimini, and then when you get to Stankonia, when they have like their huge fame, I feel like it's a bit different flavor. They're a little bit more established, a little bit more comfortable, so the lyrics, everything kind of changes. But this week with Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, first album, 1996. The song I've chosen is called Ain't No Nigga, and it's a really cool song. I really like it, I think, because it's got a very catchy chorus, but also beyond that, it has a really cool verse by Foxy Brown. And I'm not really familiar with her as a rapper or an artist or anything, but I really like her style. It's funny, if you go to her Wikipedia page, her legal issues is like the largest section with the most links to it. You've got her musical career, you've got her personal life, legal troubles, which is only outweighed by the number of feuds she's had with Lil' Kim, Queen Latifah, Queen Pen, Corrupt, Eve, Ja Rule, Remy Ma, Jackie O, and then there's even a section called Other Feuds, because he just couldn't fit them all. And then she's got she's got 7 different legal issues that are listed here. So she's got a lot of attitude. She's very sassy, and that comes across in the actual song itself. Earlier, I had thought that this album, Jay-Z's album, Reasonable Doubt, came out in the same year that an album by Philip Glass came out, because my friend Josh recently turned me on to Philip Glass as well, which his music was then featured in some Territories episodes that were recently released. And it was this album, or I guess record, or I don't know if it was contiguous or not, but it's called Music in 12 Parts, and I thought that was released in 1996 as well. It's interesting to hear, before I realized I was wrong, it was interesting to think that Jay-Z was coming out with his first solo record, first record ever. I don't know if he's ever been in a group, at the same time that this guy Philip Glass was creating music that was like completely different from anything that Jay-Z would definitely be making. It's very like ethereal and repetitive, and I don't know, it sounds like strangely biological, because it's just like it sounds like processes just repeating over and 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 over again, and then eventually changing in one direction or another. And so that music, this is like a little cross-pollination here, that music is featured in Territories, and that album by Philip Glass, Music in 12 Parts, was actually written in 1971 and 1974. So I think they might have released some sort of like reissue in 1996 or something. But I was wrong about them being contemporaneous. So no worries. It was hard this week choosing the song to go with, because I was obviously listening to this Jay-Z album, and he's got a lot of good songs on here. Politics as Usual is awesome. 222s is funny. I mean, this is one of those albums that's like solid from start to finish, and it's awesome when you find an artist and it's like their first album and every single song on it is just perfect, and you wouldn't want to skip any of them because they all just are so cohesive, and they complement each other, and the way they're sequenced and everything, it's just like spot on. And this is honestly an album that's good from start to finish. I thought about choosing a different song, one called Regrets, because it has a great line in it where I feel like he is particularly poignant with what he has to say, I guess. It's one sentence. In order to survive, you have to learn to live with regrets. It's like an interesting little sentiment to think about. Like, when I heard him say that, I was just thinking like how I don't really like to take chances because it makes your life more comfortable and I guess predictable, so you don't have to worry about the unexpected, or at least as much as you can. I mean, life is not really something you can control, but it's nice if you can trick yourself into the illusion that you have some semblance of control. But that line is interesting because it's like, I guess, for like a greater goal, like him as a businessman and everything, in order for him to get to that level, whatever sort of process and path that took, I'm sure that some bad politics happened and some shit probably hit the fan from time to time. And in order to move on from that, you just have to learn to live with regret, which is just, it's pretty profound, I would say. It's, most people, I don't know, regret's not something you want to like acknowledge or something that you want to go, it's not something you want to have gone unresolved in the course of your life. But I guess, for people who have sort of a greater vision, maybe it's something you have to embrace in order to get to that next plateau or that next stage or something. But this week it's going to be Jay-Z. I'm trying to see if there's anything in particular from his... let's see. Oh yeah, well this album also features some songs that sample some Nas songs from Illmatic, which I got really into that album when I was in Japan, and as soon as I heard those beats and the sort of chorus lines that I could tell Jay-Z had sampled, or whoever made his beats, I was kind of shocked, because that's kind of a ballsy thing to do. These guys are both like New York rappers and probably pretty big. I don't know. While I'm talking, I'll look up when Illmatic came out to see how far removed it was from 1996 and Jay-Z releasing his first album. Okay, so it was 2 years. Illmatic. Oh, and that was the debut album of Nas. That was his first record. I probably got into that one because I went on to AllMusic, and they said that was probably the best one. So yeah, if you know much about, I don't know much about rap, but obviously feuds are something that can happen, and there's a lot of ego involved, I would say, and there's no doubt that these two guys had sort of an issue with each other. And it's interesting just because I guess ultimately it was resolved years and years later, but it's interesting to read about the feud that they had because I guess Jay-Z sampled his song without permission, or he asked Nas to come in and Nas didn't want to do it. And it was interesting, I guess they said when the feud was actually resolved, because they definitely mention it within the song itself. If you there's a Wikipedia page just for Ain't No Nigga, which I feel stupid saying that, but that's the name of the song. So it was actually a single from that album. Oh, it was in Nutty Professor. That's funny. I don't know if I had that album. I feel like I did have some stupid like movie soundtrack or something like that. Not seeing anything. Anyway, it's just interesting when you kind of contextualize music and stuff like that. Like, this will be the last like little point, I guess, before we get into the actual song itself. But like listening to to a band or an artist or something like that I don't know, with 2015 ears, ears that are accustomed to everything that you hear in 2015, which I heard a really good sentiment recently that it seems like all modern music is just made so that it can be put into a commercial, which I think that's pretty accurate. A lot of shitty stuff coming out that just sounds like it's made for car commercials and like Coke, which was the point the comedian was making. But if you contextualize music, it makes the music more rich and more vivid. So it's like, Jimi Hendrix. I'm not like the biggest Jimi Hendrix fan, but I remember one time thinking about Jimi Hendrix and like the time period that he was out and just everything that was surrounding that era. And that shit must have been crazy to listen to. Similar with the Beatles, I suppose, but I feel like in terms of just raw, like anti-establishment style music, like Jimi Hendrix, well, that's pretty crazy. Like Bob Dylan might have had some words to say about the establishment and everything, but the sound of Jimi Hendrix was just so foreign. And I mean, I'm sure he's got a lot of influences and everything, and I don't know how original he is. I mean, Shakespeare isn't always credited as the actual author of all those plays. There's obviously some controversy and some feuds there as well. Probably similarly East Coast versus West Coast with Shakespeare, I'm sure. But it's just interesting to kind of give everything a little bit more of a vivid and full overview. And so that's actually one thing I've enjoyed with this segment with Song of the Week, because I do a little bit of research into the actual song and the context surrounding it. And so, this is a song that came out when I was basically 6 years old. So that's kind of crazy, because now that was 19 years ago that this song came out. And the world has changed a lot in that 19 years. Oh, wow, and this says, even in the Wikipedia page itself, Foxy Brown is only 18 years old. And God, she sounds like she's 40. Like, listen to her verse, it's just crazy. Like, man, she's Foxy, without a doubt. Aptly named. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the song. This is Jay-Z, Ain't No Nigga, from his 1996 album, his debut album, Reasonable Doubt. Nice. So I hope you enjoy. You're listening to Jesus Charlie. You're listening to Jesus Charlie. It's approximately 10:15 p.m. Sunday night, March 1st. And this is the first clip in a little while that Charlie and I are going to be making together. Char. Sunday night, so Erica and I just finished watching Walking Dead. It was another filler episode. Not the best, not the worst, but good enough. It's nice to have a little tradition that you look forward to. It's not like a date night per se, but it's the closest thing that Erica and I have on a consistent basis. We used to go to this bar in Castleberry Hill, pretty cool up-and-coming area over close to like downtown, and we would watch Walking Dead there. Usually get there a little early, have a drink before the show started, then have a drink during the show, and get a little decent little buzz going while you're watching Walking Dead, which is always fun. So it's nice to relive that. Yesterday I was able to complete all the stuff that I hoped that I was going to. I was able to get a nice bike ride in, get some new bicycle tires, got those bicycle tires on my bike, listened to Jake's new podcast, which was sort of subtly hilarious, I guess maybe. I enjoyed listening to it, but I don't know, it would be really funny. It's like he either needs to create a ton more where it's like a series of over 100 that are really, really repetitive in their style, or he needs to probably never create another one of those again. But anywhere in between would probably be sort of a shame, and I'll let you figure out why I say that by letting you listen to the episodes of Beer and Pretzels that have yet to come. Episode 1 is out. Check it out. It's on his Facebook. It's on Podcast Empire. It's on Weekend Review. Several places you can find that. Today was a fun day. this is going to be the last clip of Jesus Charlie, so I'm not really too sure what it's going to be comprised of, but I'm really full. I had a couple beers at dinner, pretty tired. Went for a long bike ride today, close to 27 miles, so getting up to that 30-ish range, which definitely is draining. You get to that point where it just kind of feels like your head is kind of fogged and hazy because you've expelled so much energy, and like the only way to really get back into your right state of mind is to go to sleep. But Charlie looks like he's about to do his business. Charlie, you about to do your business? You about to do your business? Charlie, you about to do your business? You gonna do your business? Maybe, maybe not. As soon as he does his business out here, it'll be, yep, there he goes. It's like Charlie eats his dinner, and shortly thereafter, there's a word for it, and Ben Wills knows what it is. He's told me before. It's that word that describes like the reactive sort of, biological thing that occurs after you eat food that makes you want to then poop, that dogs have, that humans can have, and etc. Charlie's doing that just now. He had dinner a few seconds ago, and now he's done his business, and so he should be good for the rest of the night for the most part, but I'll probably get one more little excursion to the outside before the end of the night. But yeah, so it's the end of the night for all of us. We're all tired, we're all full, we're all just trying to kind of milk the last little bits of the weekend for all it's worth. Char, come on. And today was a lot of fun. Woke up like around 10. I think I went to bed. I feel like it was a little bit of a late night last night doing computer stuff. I got like Jesus Charlie all geared up and everything put together as far as I could last night. Did a little bit of work with that. So woke up at like 10 today. Hung out with Erica and Charlie. I've been making omelets a lot recently for myself and for Erica. Omelets are pretty good food in terms of like their ability to, I guess, kind of give you energy, I don't know. There's a long period of my life where I ate like nothing but vegetables for all my meals, vegetables and beans. And that stuff was filling, but not in a very complete kind of way. And I have to say that eating something a little bit more substantial, some sort of an animal protein, does make me feel subjectively like I'm able to stay fuller longer and to have a bit more energy, especially for like the major exertion that I'm doing. Unfortunately, I don't usually get to have eggs or anything like that during the week because I just don't have time to make myself some eggs, although maybe I could fit that in. Take it with me to work or something. That's an interesting thought. I'll keep that in mind. Maybe I'll try that tomorrow, because I wouldn't be able to eat it before going to work, but I could probably take it with me. So that's something to think about. But was able to do that today, and Erica and I hung out until like 1 o'clock and went our separate ways. I wanted to go for a pretty long bike ride, which I was able to do. She went out and did errands. Came back together at around 3 p.m. or so, and let's go to the place I'm working at. Charlie, hey, come on. Damn it, Charlie. He always picks up these nasty things off the ground and then carries them around for a while, and I just have to hope that he loses interest and drops them or something. Anyway, though, Erica and I came back together after my bike ride and her errands, and we went to meet with my parents and my uncles over in the old Fourth Ward area because the company that I work at was having an open house, and it was really cool because the building that they're at now has recently been renovated, and they're starting to get all the stuff put together, and all of the decorations are up, and the workstations are put together. And all that was really cool, and it was really fun to meet with my parents and my uncles and be able to share that with them. We were walking around and just kind of taking it all in. I think it's like 76,000 square feet, which to me doesn't really mean much. I can't really conceptualize how much that is. I've never really had a good baseline of like, I don't know how many, like the apartment I live in, I don't know how many square feet that is. But I need to eventually have some sort of like baseline that I can compare things to, because if I ever had an apartment or a house or something like that and I was like, okay, this space is like 5,000 square feet, then I'd be able to keep that in mind and use that as sort of like my reference point. But currently I don't really know. Like, I know how big this space was. It was fucking huge, and that much I know for sure. But I would like to be able to sort of intuitively know, like if someone says that a house is 50,000 square feet or whatever it may be, I would just like to know how big that is. I guess it's a bucket list item. I'll talk about that more in Territories with Lindsay, I suppose. So that was really nice. I enjoyed spending the time with my family and extended family and Erica and everything. We went out to eat at this place called Barcelona afterwards, which was a lot of fun. It was cool because I actually ordered a beer, and Erica did too, and I was drinking just like a sip of her beer, and in the sip of her beer there was like a small piece of glass that I found, which I don't know if it was big enough to like do any actual internal damage or anything like that, but you know, you don't want to really be drinking glass, regardless of whether or not it's going to cause like, you know, fatal damage to your bodily systems. And so we brought it to the attention of our waitress, and she was nice and hooked us up with new beers immediately, and eventually gave us free desserts and champagne as well, which is pretty nice. Nice way to say, please don't sue us. Or report us, I guess, probably. But we had a really good meal, had a paella. Interestingly, just for fun, just because I was a little bit buzzed and thought, why the hell not? I had a piece of chicken, small piece of chicken, and a small piece of a meatball. So beef and chicken, consumed both tonight. Just for the hell of it, you know, why not? It's been so many years since I've had any of that stuff in my body. And the beef was kind of gross. I didn't really like that. It tasted kind of gamey, just like kind of weird and not necessarily, I don't know. It's hard to describe what gamey must actually taste like, but to me that was like the first word that came to mind. And the chicken was actually delicious. And I've been eating fish for a long time now, pretty regularly, probably for about a month or so, having fish at least once a day. And the chicken, I was just like, well, you know, after eating it, there's not really that much difference in terms of taste and in terms of like what it means to eat an animal between chicken and fish, if I have to really break it down. You know, maybe I'll do some research in the coming week, Wikipedia or something like that, but you know, I don't know if I should be depriving myself of good sources of protein that I don't really have qualms about eating just because I haven't eaten it for a while. You know, I feel like I should be able to indulge. And so that was fun. It was interesting. I don't know. If I had to think about it, I could probably figure out how many years it's actually been. So I started college in 2008, roughly. Stopped eating meat shortly thereafter, probably like the beginning of 2009. Probably didn't have anything from 2009 in terms of chicken or beef until tonight, 2015. So 6 years? Yeah. And you know, I just like to think about, I don't know how true this is, just because it's like, I don't even know. I mean, the Buddhist people, they don't really have like a Bible per se. They don't have like a holy book in the same way that Christians do or Muslims or anything like that. But I always heard that Buddha, I always heard this, you know, it's like common conversation when you go to convenience stores and libraries and stuff. But I always heard that Buddha would accept whatever food, whatever drink, whatever place to stay that was offered to him, and that sort of like the realization that he had about being enlightened or whatever he realized while he was on his like excursion was that I don't know, you should always embrace the kindnesses of others that are foisted upon you, and that you shouldn't basically ruin the atmosphere or the vibe or the good intentions of others for some stupid ideological reason. And so, in that spirit, and I've always kind of teased my sister about that, because she's a pretty hardcore vegan at this point. But I just thought, put your money where your mouth is, and put some fucking chicken and beef in your mouth. And so tonight I did, just for fun, and it was interesting. I mean, it was just like, oh, this isn't a big deal. I don't think I'm gonna get sick. I don't think it's soiled my body or anything. I mean, I just think your body is going to take it as any other any other type of protein, but maybe it's a little bit more rich in what it can do for your body. So, at this point, I'm contemplating integrating some occasional chicken into my diet. I don't ever really want to have beef or anything like that. Red meat, I still think, is something you should probably stay away from, because of all the studies I've heard about that correlate it to different types of cancers like colon and all that stuff. That's not something you really want to encourage in your own body. Although, I remember steak is good, without a doubt. But, I don't know, chicken to me, I need to do the research, figure out if it's comparable in what it can do for your body, and maybe figure out some of the drawbacks health-wise that might be associated with consuming poultry. We shall see. See, Charlie and I are out still. We're walking on this kind of short little stretch of, I guess, the path, what is a small piece of the path, Foundations path, which maybe will eventually be integrated into the Beltline. Today was actually my parents' first time on the Beltline, which is kind of unfathomable. It's interesting to think about, since I've left their house, again back in 2008, with a brief stint moving back in with them in 2010, when I elected to, because my dad lost his job, as has been discussed in previous episodes. It's interesting just how much our lives have sort of diverged, even though, we're still pretty close. We make a point to see each other, a couple times a month at the very least. So, we're still aware of what's going on in each other's lives and everything like that. But it's crazy to think that they have never stepped foot on the Beltline until today. And I have videos of me that I took with my old shitty Japanese camera, of me being on the East Side Trail that takes you from Irwin Street over by the new Krog Street Market all the way over to Trader Joe's. That was a dirt path. I don't know, how many years ago would that have been? Maybe 4 years ago? That was nothing 4 years ago. It was overgrown, it was dirt, it was railroad stuff everywhere. It was hard to navigate. The only way you could get back there was with a mountain bike, and on those days when I did want a mountain bike, that would be my preferable route to go, because it was fun. It was secluded, there was no one on it, and now on the weekends, on a nice day, you try to go on the Beltline, and it's going to be the most miserable thing you've ever done, if you're on a bike, that is. I bet, they should really do a study, although I'm sure they probably have, just to see how many people actually go on the Beltline, on a Saturday, from the hours of I don't know, let's say 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. maybe. I would say, if I had to take a guess, reasonably speaking, especially now with the Krog Street Market, how many people go on there every day? I don't know. I want to say 5,000, but that seems at the same time too little and too many. I'm not sure. Not exactly sure. This is a funny conversation. But yeah, overall, it was a good weekend. I did everything I was hoping to do. There were good feelings all around. It's coming to a nice, gentle close. Erica and I are both pretty tired. We're gonna call it in pretty soon. Trying to get Charlie tired. He's been in his bed for a while, unfortunately, which means he'll be sort of wound up a little bit. But regardless, it's been a nice weekend, and I am glad to have been able to do a little bit of Jesus Charlie. I hope to maybe have a friend of mine, Andrew Roos, on the show. I think I talked about him in the last clip, or maybe like the first clip or something. But he's a guy I went to high school with, and he's doing a lot of stuff to try to kind of get himself out there in the entertainment industry. And I think it'd be great to have like an interview with him, because of all the people that I know, which isn't too many in intimate terms anyway, he seems like he's really done a lot to kind of live the dream, get famous kind of, and he seems to have a lot to say about his experience. So if he can't get onto Weekend Review, which I think would be great if we could have him on in that capacity, I'm thinking about maybe having him on Jesus Charlie and have like sort of an interview thing that would be sort of a bonus episode for Jesus Charlie, because it wouldn't be the typical fashion, and it wouldn't be something that I could like feel good about releasing as a Jesus Charlie episode in and of itself, because in the whole spirit of Jesus Charlie, it wouldn't really coincide or whatever. We're walking by Pullman Train Yard right now, and they are doing another movie shoot here. So there's like a ton of filming equipment and like big cranes and stuff, and guards are always here at night protecting all the equipment. It sounds like some guys like listening to music really loud. It'd be so boring to do that. God, it makes me want to fall asleep just looking at it. So on that note, that slightly frenetic, tangential nonsense kind of upwelling, I think we'll leave it here. Charlie, you okay with that? Cool. And we'll come back to you again next week, hopefully not as late as this show was, and hopefully not necessarily all at once. I do like to spread out the clips so that you have more of a complete picture of the week. It's like, if you record everything in one day, it's like, well, you might be in one specific mood in that specific day, so it's like you're just kind of getting one specific take, even though you had 7 whole days to kind of say some different things about different things that might have been a little bit more interesting when put all together. But, it is what it is. So for now, Sunday night, probably closer to 10:30 now or so. This is Kenneth and Chochar, hey, signing off. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next week for another edition of Jesus Charlie.
You've been listening to
A production of
the Podcast Empire. Spread the word.